Hi. Here, we have two areas there. You can physically see this is
Concave.
Yep. And see it flex. Yeah. You got the fine.
I've been doing this my whole damn life.
Yeah. So we got that area here, and we've got a secondary area here. Again, you can see it. Yeah. Everything else, I mean, again, you have a lot of, I mean, it's a pretty, there's not a lot of structure aside, so you got a lot of echoes, but everything else.
They're not happy with it.
No, right? You all have a little loose screws.
Something bouncing all over in there.
Who's the owner?
I'm John.
Hey John, we've met before. Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
But yeah, everything, I mean, I haven't heard.
Generally speaking, what I do in situations like this is there's no doubt some delamination. I don't see a huge need to worry about the delamination and cut a hole in. A lot of times we grind it out, make sure that if it's loose fiber, we eliminate all of that.
Right.
And then we build it up and make sure it's equal to original. Of course, we have a certain taper that we have to use in order to enable architects to use a 12-to-1.
Right.
So that's what we will do. Otherwise, it becomes more complicated because we go inside and then we have to make more dust and dirt and everything else. Structurally speaking, if we do everything from the outside, it's just as structurally strong. If you go inside and it's disturbing to somebody, like a surveyor or something like that, says, hey, what is this? Then we can do it on the inside too. I just always try to default to make sure, first of all,
I mean, I go to him,
Yeah.
and what he is saying makes sense to me. It's the least obtrusive to do that. And these holes are thin anyways, but so you can probably take 2/3 of the laminate, it's not much left, and re-laminate it.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if we, it's what I call a single-sided repair.
Yeah.
I've worked on a lot of mega yachts in my life. I've built mega yachts in my life. And we had a 150 footer that wanted 0-speed stabilizers, but this boat was worth like 50 million. And he goes, I don't want my interior destroyed. And I said, I'm not even going inside your boat. Well, how can you do it? Da, da, da. So I worked with our naval architect, got the whole thing done. And so we got all done with the boat. He says, you never even went inside, did you? I said, no way. Till we hooked up the hydraulics. But so how can I help you beyond my suggestions?
Yeah, I think,
So
yeah,
we're trying to, we have a buyer for the boat, and I think we just want to communicate what's happening.
Is the buyer here?
No, they're not here. We're making a couple videos for them.
he's the
Are
same.
you both owners?
I'm an owner.
And I'm the broker.
I am the owner.
Okay.
He's the, there's
Okay.
my broker.
And we're just trying to find out, what needs to be done, an approximate price, so we can communicate that to the buyer.
Yeah.
In general terms, the way I described, now the only disclaimer is that if I find it fractured to beat the band on the inside, then I'm going to have to do something.
Yeah.
But most of the time when it delaminates, it pushes one laminate up, and I use that as just basically the mold to start building off. But by leaving that little bump on the inside, it actually works like a bit of a bridge, so it makes it even stronger.
Yeah.
So if we get it opened up and we see that it's all fragmented and somebody's not going to be happy with it, then the dollars would change slightly. But normally I can fix a repair like this for probably about $1,000, maybe $1,200 a piece. So it's not a huge number.
And I have my thoughts about what could have caused this from my client, but what's your thoughts?
Always the jack stands.
Jack stands.
Always.
That's how I was saying. On overland transport, they overworked them. Yeah.
That or sometimes boat yards are guilty
Boat yards can
too.
do it too. Yeah.
A boat yard that knows what they're doing will almost always set 50 to 60% of the weight on the keel. They'll put the jack stands in place, they'll make sure they'll put the weight off, and then they'll check them to make their uniform. And if they don't check them, and then the boat sits in the yard in a hot summer or something like that, not so much here in Ventura because it's like 55 all year round. But in, like, let's say where it's warmer, then the resins, when they start getting to be about 120, 150 degrees and whatnot, as the temperature gets hotter, they get softer, 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 softer. Resin actually at about 180 degrees will actually start turning to a liquid again. So it's not a liquid like we're used to in the can, but it's much, much softer than you'd think it would be.
And obviously it's like a lightly built hull, lightweight, so you don't have as much, This is your boat, You could probably support the whole damn boat with jack stands and everything, you know, and things,
I know, yeah.
you know.
Beach it.
But,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we do run into boats, and
yeah. So that's a pretty reasonable repair.
Yeah.
You know, not a, you know.
Okay. And then that includes painting and everything too, or touching up the paint?
we touch up the paint, but it doesn't include painting the bottom.
Right, of course,
But
yeah.
the bottom paint is the bottom paint.
Yeah.
And if we include a bottom job at the same time, then it automatically includes it at no extra cost. It might add $50 or something like that to put the paint on it, because that's normally, because once we do the fiberglass, we like to make sure that fiberglass has the time to outgas, because almost all resins, doesn't matter epoxy or vinyl ester or polyester or iso or any of the others, they outgas. They have thinners in them. Styrene is on all the traditional ones. And if you don't let that out, then none of the primers or epoxies are going to stick to it. And all we're doing is just taking your money for nothing. We don't want to do that.
Yoke gas, how long does that take usually?
24 hours
Oh, just
as a minimum.
24
Yeah,
hours.
in this colder climate, I like to let it sit for a day and a half or
Yeah,
two.
that's okay.
Once the initial outgassing is done, now the fiberglass will cure literally in an hour or two or three. No problem. It depends. I say an hour to three. That's just basically the difference between epoxies and whatever.
Yeah,
But once the initial outgassing has occurred, the rest of it all gets, basically brought into the laminate. It's a form of polarization.
yeah.
So it becomes part of the molecular structure.
How quick the repairs? Because your client wants to take it up
Yeah, he's trying to move
Here.
fast.
Oh, that's no big.
a couple days,
Well,
4
by
days.
the time we haul it out,
Yeah.
grind it, do it, you might as well plan on a week.
week.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we need to know in advance that they're trying to fight a timeline just so we can make sure we meet it.
Yeah.
If we, I always tell people, if I'm the best runner in the world and nobody tells me where the course is, I'm not going to win.
Yeah.
The only other thing I see is fuel bolt should be reported. In 2014 is on the minor separation.
Okay.
But all this sounds solid.
Normally we don't retort them. All we do is make sure they're torqued.
Okay.
If they are loose,
Yeah.
then we'll bring them up to the torque value.
Okay, but you'll yeah.
Yeah.
You'll
Because if they are tight, we don't want to actually change something.
Makes sense. Yeah.
But if they are physically loose, then yes, we absolutely do want to change something.
Exactly. So you'll check them.
Yeah. If that's on one of the items to check, then yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll say
That's
so.
pretty minor.
Yeah, so a safe number, tightening the keel bolt if they need to be, doing the repairs here, doing touch-up paint. $3,000, somewhere in that area.
That's safe. Now,
That's a
assuming
safe
the
number?
keel bolts are appropriate and everything else and that. It's pretty rare keel bolts are loose. It has happened, but it's like literally very 5% max.
Right.
It's a very rare number. What we do when it comes in is if we write it up in the work order correctly, let's say, confirm keel bolts are torqued, then we'll make a note that says we confirm the keel bolts. That's a record for whoever buys the boat. It's
Right.
also a protection for you that says, hey, you can't come back we're a full disclosure state, which
Yeah.
means you got to share everything. And so you want that record, and then that way they have a good record for their insurance. That's really good for the insurance side
Right.
of it.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Okay.
Are you videoing?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a relatively small footprint. You only have like 4 sets of keel bolts in here. There's a lot of torque, a lot of leverage on a small footprint, so it's not uncommon to have some minor separation all the way around. It's just not that much to grab hold of.
Yeah.
Okay, so that recommendation is a C. Okay, which is the least concern. It's just more just to check to confirm.
Yeah.
Mark, right?
Yes.
In addition to what Mark just shared, keep in mind, as Mark has already stated, is the hull is thin. So a lot of times what's occurring on the thin hull with the small footprints is things flex slightly.
Yeah.
And that flexing is what gives you some of that discoloration and stuff.
And this is all, this is all rock solid. The whole trunk of the keel is solid.
Okay.
In here,
You done boating?
Cool.
Not done, but
All right, I'm going to turn this off here.
maybe, I'll